Hello and welcome. I am Zerbraxi. You know, for most of my life, I loved playing video games. And then I started to hate them. Imagine, if you're able, just playing a video game and having one second. Having fun. No, I'm not following. There's something so special about being young. Everything is new and exciting, you aren't jaded yet and can play any game you want without having to wrestle with the fact that the product you're playing might be created by someone who actively hates and exploits others. Terrible games are still fun, and the term bad game is often reserved for those you just happen to get stuck on because, well, quite honestly, anything is good and fun to some degree in your eyes. Man, being a kid is kinda great. Ah yes, the power of youth. The inability to fully conceive the future because your brain isn't done. The lack of agency so your entire existence is dictated by those who happen to have birthed you against your will. And being forced to constantly replay Mary-Kate and Ashley Sweet 16 License to Drive because grandma figured you thought they were cute. Man, being a kid kinda sucks. Video games are something truly special. They are a high art form that culminates into the ultimate merger of every creative medium before it. Being exposed to that for the first time can lead to a world of awe and wonder. I will never be able to fully describe just how much video games have impacted my life. Career goals, critical thinking ability, literature knowledge, vocabulary, basically everything about me has in some capacity been shaped by the art that I've engaged in over the years. There's also the added bonus of being a form of escapism, a comfort food that begs you to return to it often in order to escape the fatigue of everyday life. This art form left such an impression on me that my earliest memory I can recall is sitting in my bedroom and playing Super Mario 3 with my uncle. It was level 1-5, and I remember that tile set and that feeling of satisfaction sliding down the ramp to kill all the enemies. Oh, that's so satisfying. Show it again. Oh, that is so hot. Loving games when you're young is easy. Every experience is new, and, well, since you can't buy your own games, you get really good at finding the fun in what you do have. You create lists of games that you want to play so that way you can share it with your family in the hopes that something on your newly created backlog will be purchased as a gift. Maybe it's a birthday or Christmas, you don't care, but something. Everything is an adventure. Add in some other people, and you create some of the best experiences of your life. Whether you grew up in the arcades, through the worlds of MMOs and MOBAs, the squeaky Your Mama jokes on the Xbox Live preteen lobbies, or the great Battle Royale boom, the only thing better than being young and loving video games is sharing those memories with people you meet and care about. But then, somewhere along the way, I just stopped liking the dang things. You suck. There's something so interesting about becoming an adult. Everything is now an obstacle to overcome. Your eyes open up to which games are great, which are crap, and which are great crap. There's no longer a need to keep pushing through something that's not very good, well, because you have the money and agency to go out and buy a replacement. Man, being an adult is kinda great. And yet, you get mad at games more. Nothing seems to really land like your childhood favorites. Sure, you find games that you have fun with, and some that you even like a whole lot, but nothing seems to really change your world again, does it? Man, being an adult kinda sucks. From here on out, I'm gonna speak a bit less generally and a bit more personally. If you end up relating to this story, then great. I am so happy and I hope this helps you. If you have absolutely no clue what I'm talking about and you just think I'm a loser who really needs to get over everything and stop taking video games of all things way too dang seriously, then yeah, my therapist would also agree with you. It was around my late teens through my early to mid 20s that my goals, my desires out of games kind of shifted. I was no longer playing World of Warcraft to find Mancrick's wife and to level another character because I missed the sights of Stranglethorn Vale. Instead, I was grinding for years on end to eventually get myself several raid boss kills that were in the top 20 in the world. I was no longer playing the original Guild Wars just to find elemental blades because they looked cool. Instead, I was taking weeks off work without pay in order to get World 8th level 80 in Guild Wars 2. I became obsessed with being the best, with inching out that 0.1% more progress because it's progress. I remember one Saturday I was on Starcraft 2, and I spent over 12 hours straight playing the first 8 minutes of a match over and over and over and over again until I could get a Protoss build order down to match the pros while also being able to keep a consistent APM of over 225 minimum. I remember playing MegaMan X for the first time around the age of 20, and I ended up playing it so much that I got my runs down to like 45 minutes. Why? I have no idea, but it was kind of fun. Jeez, I sound like one of those old men who's just going on reminiscing about his dreams of becoming an online creator, about how he gave that up years ago so he could do something exciting like investing into index funds. Oh my God, I'm such a loser. Video games were no longer about new worlds or new adventures, but about being the best. I would drop single-player games simply because they had no online persistence or some other method of comparing how I stacked up to others. I would stop playing certain multiplayer titles if the player base and competitive community just wasn't big enough, so I had more people to fight against for number 1. Oh, who am I kidding? I was competing for like number 47. But still, it was the thrill of the hunt. This isn't to say that I stopped playing single-player games entirely. Absolutely not. I fondly remember playing Demon's Souls for the first time and growing addicted to its challenge in an industry that had completely shifted to cutscene-based storytelling and streamlining, which was an admirable goal, but for many years was just a misguided synonym for removing as much challenge as possible. Also, it's Demon's Souls, not Demon Souls, like I just said, it's Demon's Souls. Yeah, it's surprisingly difficult to say. Demon's Souls. Demon's Souls. It's terrible. I became enthralled in the indie scene when I grew an obsession with N+, and N++ eventually, but even more so when I was exposed to the indie genius of Super Meat Boy and Dust in Elysian Tale in the same summer. There were still great games out there, just waiting to be played. So then what the heck is this whole episode even about then? Playing video games, specifically single-player titles, started to become genuinely difficult for me. Not because of work, or college, or a social life. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. And nothing, anything like that, absolutely not. But the actual act of playing them had become an awkwardly unfun and unrewarding time. Seriously, has anyone else gone through this? Have you ever thrown a new game into the console knowing full well that it's something you're gonna love, but a couple hours in you just wanna turn it off and go do something else? I don't know, like maybe go play a multiplayer game with the boys for the evening? You know, a multiplayer game that you constantly complain about? One that, like, for every one nice thing you say about it, there's about 5 hours worth of you ranting about how trash it is, about the crap content schedule, or the egregious business model, or how the direction it recently took makes absolutely no sense, and yet you keep playing it for God knows what reason? Has anything similar ever happened to you? Randy, has anything ever happened to you like this? Is this ringing any bells? Yet, a brand new game drops. Something that is shattering the industry. It's taking the world by storm. It's everything you could have ever asked for when you were younger, and is by all accounts one of the greatest pieces of the medium ever. And yet you will never finish it. You'll never give it more than a few hours. It's like all of these games are more exhausting or boring or something. Sometimes they aren't just boring, but are like Final Fantasy VIII boring. A big issue, we'll say, that I found was specifically this move away from playing mostly multiplayer only into enjoying single player again. That was my hard divide. The constant, persistent reward and progress structure on online titles becomes almost addictive. In my case, it wasn't almost, like it genuinely was addictive. I had this compulsory need to jump back into these games. Yeah, that's why I played all these games. It wasn't because they were good at all. No. It was because I have no self-control. For some, we can fall out of interest from certain genres, and for others, it's the entire medium. Overall, I was content with the fact that I might just not be interested in single-player games anymore. It was something that, maybe, I just don't find fun in anymore, and that's okay. Well, except for the fact that I kept wanting to love all of the new announcements and games each and every year that went by. How could I somehow not love something that I so consistently tried to? I wanted to. Typically, desire is the key factor to love, and effort is the amplifier of that desire. So why was this different? Why did I just fall back into playing the same game over and over again for thousands of hours as I watched amazing new experiences pass me by? Was it my limited time, my limited energy that made me no longer enjoy games I thought I should have? That big adult reason that we all tell ourselves? I mean, sure, I was more tired. I genuinely was more exhausted around this time. I was now working 40 hours a week. I was also attending college, taking 18 to 20 credits a semester on an overload. Yeah, I didn't have much time. But that typically makes the free time sweeter though, you know? Something had to change, and I was determined to rekindle that childlike wonder and love of all video games once again. I didn't just want to enjoy single-player RPGs again, or real-time strategy titles. No. What I wanted, my goal, was to bring myself back to having a craving desire to try out any game, of any type, anytime, and to go in as open and receptive as possible. So where the heck do I start? What do I do first? You know, even during the period of time that I stopped enjoying most games, during an era where I was convinced that nothing new would hit those high notes of childhood favorites, there was one that crept its way through the mire. One that reminded me of the creative potential, and to never ignore the little guy, or in this case, the new kid. My time with Bastion was perfect. It was something I heard of and bought, mostly because Supergiant was formed by some former EA employees and I wanted to throw in EA's face by supporting them. I had the game installed on my computer, but I never played it. Until one special day. Where I lived at the time was hit by a really bad hurricane. Thankfully, we did have power restored in a few days, but I didn't get internet back for several weeks. I had just moved and didn't have access to all of my consoles or my physical PC games, so I was left with a PC, no internet, and one solitary game that would run in Steam offline mode. I spent weeks playing Bastion. Every single day, I gave it a few hours of my time and went all in. The music, the narrator, the weapons, the combat system, the story, everything clicked. And I fell head over heels. I mean, I had nothing else I could play, so yeah, of course I had a good time. You know what though? Yeah, that actually probably was part of it. Granted, Bastion is a phenomenal game on its own, and one of the best indies I've had the pleasure of experiencing. The narrator's voice is also a pleasure to experience in its own right.
Forms up under his feet as it pointing the way. He don't stop to wonder why.
Damn, if my voice sounded like that, I'm pretty sure my life would be a whole lot different. But seriously, yeah, the fact that I was back like a kid, with the kid, with one game to play, yeah, that probably had a huge effect. It really encouraged me to extrapolate every ounce of enjoyment, and heck, I probably even found certain moments fun that I might not normally have given the current circumstances. Eventually, the internet was restored. I had access to my library of games again, and I went back to my old habits like nothing had happened. Bastion wasn't the turning point for me, but it did leave a small nugget, and would become the catalyst for an experiment I would attempt in a couple years' time. 2015. Holy crap, what a year for video games. Ori and the Blind Forest, Axiom Verge, Splatoon, Mario Maker, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Bloodborne, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Undertale, and Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. Dude, I tried not to laugh, but man, no one actually likes Undertale. This year was bombarding everyone with insane release after insane release. We were eating good, and everything on the menu looked damn tasty. And I couldn't care. At all. And that made me so mad. How could all of these games be coming out, some of which were pushing their genre and being heralded as some of the best of the best of the best, and here I was, just playing World of Warcraft for like the 10th year in a row, just complaining about everything about it and talking about how much I wanted out, and yet that subscription kept renewing month after month after month. I needed an out. I needed an escape. Bro, chill out. It's not war. I needed to figure out a way to just finally sit down and play these games I know I would love, but it was like I had formed a habit not to enjoy them. Yeah, actually that's what it was. It wasn't a lack of interest. I mean, I'd see the trailers for something new like Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition, and I'd be so pumped. I actually think I'm gonna go play some Dota. I had become almost addicted to needing a multiplayer match queue system, a high energy match, followed by a screen indicating my increase or decrease in rank in some fashion. I needed that. If a game didn't have these things, like it felt like I was in someone else's house. Seeing the menus and the gameplay style of the MMORPGs and multiplayer shooters almost had become a comfort, and anything else was alien. It just didn't feel right. And I was really growing to hate it. Bastion had proved a couple of years prior that I could escape this multiplayer addiction, we will call it. At least that's what my specific issue was. In reality though, it was a bit deeper. It had gotten to a point where playing a new game, in general, just anything new, started to become less and less desirable, as it seemed to become almost more and more energy intensive to start a fresh adventure. But Bastion, why did it click for Bastion? Was it because I didn't have a choice? Okay, sure. Losing choice isn't a fun constraint by any stretch, but I can't deny the joy I had. I can't pretend like it didn't become one of my favorite games of all time. I can't fool myself into ignoring the fact that I enjoyed it more than anything else I was playing at the time. Enough is enough. I'm going to find that love again. I'm going to enjoy games more than ever before. Not just a couple genres either. No. I was determined to get myself to a point where I was able to pick up absolutely any game of any genre and find fun in it. Fun, like I had all those years ago. Like the first time I played The Legend of Dragoon and went on a grand adventure in a land completely foreign to me. I became determined to be open to trying any new game, except Final Fantasy VIII. That was a lost cause. And in 2015, one game did bring all of that love back. And oh boy, it came back with a frickin' vengeance. Bastion might have been the catalyst for me to consider trying this little experiment, and The Witcher 3 became my test subject. And boy, oh boy, everything changed. After rolling credits on The Witcher 3 and skipping quite a few classes in order to play it, I went back and played through a ton of games that were released that year, and more that were released years and years ago. It had worked. It had frickin' worked. I really did find joy, even in crappy games like Shaq Fu of all things. And I became addicted to finding new experiences. Finishing a game had become exciting, not just because I would have a new experience under my belt, but because I was now afforded the opportunity to jump into something new and do it all over again. The cycle was broken, and I loved it. I think my personal favorite part so far has been how I failed to mention how I actually did it. Oh, crap. Right, yeah, so what did I do? Well, this is what worked for me. If you're somehow having this struggle or something like it, and you're watching this video, or hey, maybe you know someone who's in a similar boat that I was, feel free to share this, and I hope it can prove helpful. Losing your love for something sucks, but sometimes it's actually never lost. Sometimes it's just that age, time and behavior can impact you in ways that you're blind to. That is, until you level up just how much of a loser you are and spend concerted effort on enjoying video games of all things instead of focusing your energy on something productive. I mean, there's a reason that there's now a camera and a microphone and lights and all this other stuff around me, and that's because I'm trying to trick myself into thinking that this is all productive. Thankfully for me, I'm an idiot. Bullet point number 1. The numbering here is irrelevant. There is no order. Bullet point number orange. Turn your backlog into a quest log. Look, let's just be honest with ourselves. Lists aren't fun. Checking things off of lists though, yo, that might be the most addictive activity, second only to complaining that you have nothing to play when you have like 50 games you still haven't touched. Now that's a good time. Decision fatigue, analysis paralysis, whatever you want to call it, sometimes when you have to think about making a decision with a ton of options, you simply just don't. And then you return back to your established norm and your current habits. The path of least resistance is the key to peak productivity while simultaneously the bane to getting anything done. The trick? Reduce the need to do that whole thinking thing we all hate to do so much. Introducing the list, or as some people call it, the backlog. Or, well, I like to gamify everything because if it's not a game, I just won't do it. So let's settle on the quest log instead. Sit down, take about 15 minutes or so, and just start writing down every game you haven't played that you want to. The first thing that jumps to your mind, just write them all down. Done. The key here is specifically to just not think too much about it. The 15 minutes gives you time to ponder, while also forcing you to just go with whatever pops first into your mind. Follow your heart on this one. You could write the list down on a physical sheet of paper, a note-taking app, a project management tool if you're a soulless manager like myself. However, since I first did this, a website called Backlogged has come into play where you can just search and add games to a list and then mark them off as you play them. You can even leave reviews, log your start and finish dates, see games similar to what you're playing, and more. Hashtag not sponsored, hashtag not an ad. I just love the tool and I've been using it in place of my original Google Sheet I made years ago. But remember, don't view this as a backlog. This is your quest log. Starting a new game is embarking on a new quest, and wrapping up a title and marking it done is quest complete. I mean, throw in some side objectives along the way for fun if you want. And by the way, if for some reason anyone from Backlog is watching this, can you do one thing? I have one thing I want to ask. Can you add a little thing that happens, like when you change a game's status from playing to played? Can you make a little bing, a little bing that plays whenever you do that? I love the dopamine hit. I think that'd go a long way. I think it'd be great. Also, can you also do like add an experience system? Like think about it this way. You could add like some sort of XP system, and you could kind of base the XP based on maybe the length of the game to do at least just main story completion, and you could just hook right into how long to beat's API. Just pull the main story completion time, and then when someone plays that out, I don't know, just make it like 1 XP per hour. So like a 40-hour game get you 40 XP. Like how cool is that? And if you don't want to do it that way, I don't know, maybe do just a flat rate of XP for every game. I mean, that does kind of form potentially a bad metagame where people are only going to play short games once they want to get a little addicted to the system, but just another idea. Wait, another one. You could also take that XP system and then maybe have like your profile can maybe have like an avatar of some sort, okay, right? And you could use your experience to level up the avatar, and then maybe like unlock some new items, some new cosmetics, just some stuff that's just there for no other purpose than just for fun, to just kind of make your profile look a little more unique, a little more you. Maybe have some that are more tied to like genres, like RPG has a certain style of unlocks, or maybe real-time strategy has another one, I think we should do that too. That's another idea, you can have it. Actually, maybe I should just build my own competitor. Anyway, number F. Find the fun. The phrase, find the fun, is actually one used in game design itself. It's an idea that when you're developing a title and going through prototyping and playtesting, that you should identify the key component that the players seem to have the most fun with. Identify that piece and double down on it. That little nugget you find is made of gold and provides a launch pad for design direction to be guided by. I decided to take that philosophy and just try to find the fun parts of the game I was playing and focus my opinions and perspectives around the strengths this experience provided. No, it didn't perform some magic trick where I'm now blind to all negative parts of a video game, but it did do something right. I'm very cognizant of my own negativity bias, and I wanted to fight that by, well, in my own mind, letting games make mistakes, as long as they were trying to make up for these shortfalls in other areas. Like, kind of treat them like people? Like Masahiro Sakurai once said, nobody sets out to create a game that's not fun. I think that's fair. And in return, I'll extend a kindness back to view their creations through that lens. Again, this won't make you blind to the frustrating design decisions, but you start to look at games more how you think the developer would want you to see it. And that alone makes games way more fun. Just be careful because you also don't want to become a blind consumer. Like if something's really egregious or bad, just it's okay that it's bad, but try to have fun. I don't know. The journey is the destination. When I talk about games with people, there's a phrase that I hear time and time again. I wish I played this as a kid. I never really thought anything of it, but then as I got older and older, that phrase started to bother me more and more. It actually pisses me off. Why do you care so much about when you play it? Did I miss some world secret here that games can only be impressionable when you're a child? Like, when your brain's not even done developing and you lack full cognition? Really? Like, as far as we know, time is an arrow, and you're never gonna get younger. You can never go back. So instead of spitting out some woe is me garbage, just start playing the games like a kid. If I had to boil down the number one, the primary, the absolute pinnacle reason why playing games as a kid is somehow better, it's this. When you're young, the journey is the destination. The goal isn't to be done. The goal is simply to play. It's to experience. Progress is irrelevant. The activity is the progress. Developing minds are addicted to games. Not like video games, but like games in the more broad sense. It would appear to be some sort of biological development that translates learning and pattern recognition into an activity that kind of tickles our brain and that we find fun. Play is learning, and play is fun. And then we stop craving learning. But games, especially single-player video games, are just that, learning. Instead of focusing on progress or beating the game, I vowed to just experience The Witcher 3 and let it take me for a ride. Insert Marvel vs. Capcom 2 character select joke. Oh, shoot, oh no, I was actually supposed to write a joke there? When I turned on The Witcher 3 to try this experiment, I had no goals, no aims, except to sit down and play. This shift in mindset to focus on the journey itself might be the best thing I've ever done in terms of increasing my enjoyment out of not only video games, but potentially every single activity I'm engaged in. It's funny because now I've noticed that people ask me a different question all the time. So how far into the game are you? My answer? I have no clue. Thing is, I don't care. If I have fun for 3 hours, then great. It was a fun 3-hour time. If I have fun for 150 hours to 200 hours because Tears of the Kingdom is amazing and I can't stop putting it down, then awesome. Tears of the Kingdom is probably now my new favorite video game of all time. If I'm having a good time and I'm smiling while on the journey, then let's just keep walking, you know? The biggest shift for me here is about the true emotion of joy. The joy that comes from play. Yeah, I have limited time, and I'd like to be able to make a bunch of progress, but I want to have fun more than that. In my time where I couldn't seem to get back into single-player games, I'd often return to previous titles that I'd been playing consistently, not because I was having fun, but because other external forces were pressuring me to hit certain benchmarks, or because it was just comfortable. I had a lot of fun during those years. Some of the best times of my life happened in those years, but I also had a lot of miserable times as well. My new goal was, and still is, to not worry about beating a game, not worrying about finishing a new quest, not worrying about getting farther, but instead to just let myself get taken along for the adventure. Number Garl is the best. Never play the same thing twice. Welcome to the rule that I've broken a crap ton. It's a rule that basically no one will ever follow, and that's fine. But the intent behind it, the motivation behind it, I think it's still worth it in the end. Let's just say, hypothetically, that I'm sitting down and playing Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, a super fun immersive sim that makes me crave for that genre again. Once I'm done and ready to move on, it just means that I'll try to not play another immersive sim. Instead, maybe I'll go finish Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or Metroid Prime Remaster, or Turok 2, just something different. Now, granted, there are times I'll go on a kick, for sure. I played Have a Nice Death, Moonlighter, and Dead Cells back to back to back, and they all basically scratch a similar itch as each other. However, in general, this rule kind of helps you break the comfort zone. It will make you uncomfortable, and eventually put you into a genre that you probably aren't in the mood for right now. The goal is to help incentivize variety, since we normally aren't very good at choosing it ourselves willingly. It was weird, and it took some effort to stick true to this, but in the end, I'm at a point now where I desire to bounce around from genre to genre, from modern to retro, from Critical Gem to the 27th third-person over-the-shoulder action game on the PS5 released this month. Number the last one. Relax. It's not that serious. Just try and have some fun. Like seriously, just relax and don't think too serious about it. Just enjoy the act of play, you know? Just be a kid. What's the point of being an adult if you can't be a kid sometimes? Like, is this stuff gonna actually work for you? I don't know. I hope so. Do you actually have this problem? I don't know. Probably not. It's probably just me. It's probably just me. Should make this whole thing pointless. I'm gonna let myself out. Bye-bye!